Thank you all for finding your way across the street this morning. Welcome to Twin Mobley in the session room. So glad to have you all here today. As we wrap up this session of the issues class, I just want to say it's been a fabulous summer. And Kevin Burns has just gone out to the street to man the door. But we'll thank him again at the end for fabulous leadership in putting this series together. We began with Judge Perry and talking about crime in Louisville, and have worked our way through opioid crisis and housing and education issues, and now come to a very special opportunity to talk about West Louisville. It's really a privilege this morning for me to introduce my friend Chris Sanders. I have so thoroughly enjoyed working with Chris for the last 3 years or so.
More like 4.
We've been working on this. Chris, many of you, I think, probably know from his work here in Louisville. Chris is an attorney. He's a graduate of Georgetown College. He holds an MDiv from Southern Baptist Theological Seminary, but then went to law school and got his law degree from the University of Louisville School of Law. He's worked primarily in the area of labor law, and worked for a number of years in Washington, D.C. With the group Jobs with Justice and the Interfaith Worker Justice Program, where he served as in-house counsel with a 25,000-member labor union organization, and then returned to solo practice in 2013. He's worked with good causes and good people. I know something of Interfaith Worker Justice from my time in Chicago. That's right, big, strong chapter there. So, about 4 years ago, Chris, as he returned to private practice, then came on board as the kind of coordinator, staff person, all things keeping on track for the Empower West group that you heard me talk about. So that's part of our connection. He's here to talk about West Louisville, Simmons College, and some of our work in Empower West. So, Chris, thank you ever so much for agreeing to come. He is going to need to split a little before our normal 10:30 time. We have a couple choir people that may get up and leave before it will not be anything you said. Then
you may line up in the music.
I'll wrap up. So welcome, Chris. Thank you.
Thank you all. Thank you. As Colonel Campbell said, I'm a deacon at Ridgewood Baptist Church in Pleasure Ridge Park, which is 17 good miles from here. And I've got to get my guitar out of my car and run like, to get in time to plug in and play for the 11 o'clock service. So at 10:20, I'll be out of here, questions or no questions. Anyway, thank you all for letting me come. This is my neighborhood. For 30 years, I was at that church right over there.
Actually, it's
Right over
down
there. Highland Baptist, which has a partnership with my church, Ridgewood Baptist and PRP. So this is my neighborhood. I live in the Highlands, and it's a pleasure to be here with you all. I was looking at the names of the summer series, and it's kind of an honor to be associated with all my friends up there. Claude and Kathy and Judge Perry, who I went to law school with, Bill Hollander. You all had quite a series this summer. Congratulations. Because time is short, I want to make sure we have time to interact. Let me just cover some ground and talk about West Louisville, Simmons College of Kentucky, and Empower West Louisville. Louisville is segregated, like all cities are segregated, like all major cities are segregated. Louisville is considered maybe the 4th most segregated city in America. Something we're not proud of course. But segregation has kept us apart in many, many ways, and not just distance. So that where we are big, but not that big, what you want to call West Louisville is really only about 4 miles from here. Many of us unless we just choose to, never have a reason to be in West Louisville and only know West Louisville either by information or reputation. So that's a problem because there are 60,000 people in West Louisville in 9 neighborhoods with whom, unless you work at it, unless you're proactive about it, you don't interact with and know anything about. That's me. Until fairly recently, I wasn't spending enough time in West Louisville. I'll refer to West Louisville in general as, and places in West Louisville as so-called black space. That's a term of art we begin to use to say that there are places in segregated America that are owned by white folks, white space, black people in black space, because we are distant from each other. West Louisville, 9 neighborhoods, 60,000 people, has changed a lot just in the time that I've been alive. One of our churches, St. Stephen Church, is in the California neighborhood. California, at one time a thriving area, has lost half its population. Half the number of people that once lived in the California neighborhood are gone. That means that that explains to you, if you should travel in West Louisville, why you will see lots of vacant property, why you will see lots of abandoned property, why you see a lot of property which is in much need of upkeep, renovation, and repair. People just aren't there. Not like they once were when Louisville, and particularly west part of Louisville, is much more thriving. West Louisville suffers in a lot of ways in terms of education deficit, in terms of job opportunity. It also has a thriving culture. We often want to talk about, especially in the church, about the problems people have. I also want to focus on the promise, because promise is important too. What you may not have in terms of economic opportunity, in terms of social cohesion, you've got a cultural cohesion, a sense of solidarity and peoplehood and place and promise that matters. One of our neighborhoods in West Louisville is the Russell neighborhood. One of the most vital projects in the Russell neighborhood is called Russell, a place of promise. Because you can focus on the bad, but I choose personally to focus on the better. So, a couple more details about black space. Dr. Cosby, my boss, pastor St. Stephen Church, 15,000 members at the corner of 15th in Kentucky, and 3 other campuses around the area, Jeffersonville, 2 other campuses in Hardin County, 15,000 members, likes to talk about the 5 pillars of black prosperity. I'm just going to get to where black family, black businesses, black media, I'm always forgetting one, and the black church. The problem is that the erosion, like I was talking about, that's happened in California, but it's also been the erosion of those pillars of black prosperity. Black media has suffered a lot. We're going to talk about that more at the end of the hour. Black businesses have suffered as a result of depopulation and business consolidation generally. The black family has suffered as a result of social pressures that drive people apart instead of bringing people together. What's left is the black church. Most of us in this room are white. Church matters to us. In the black community, church matters that much more. Church just is central to social cohesion, to hope, to identity, to humanity. Don't we have worship at 11 o'clock If you're anything like my church, it's going to last till 12 o'clock, not 12:01. And you're done, because church occupies a certain part of our lives. It's not entire, it's not encompassing, it's not everything about who we are. The black church, that spot is this that much more times 10. People say, why do you, in black churches, do you worship last an hour and a half, 2 hours or more? Black preachers will tell you, you got to spend the first hour reminding people are children of God. Because the rest of the week, people are dehumanized. Especially if you have to spend a lot of time in white space. Life is not, doesn't build you up, doesn't reinforce you. But on Sunday, in black space, you can feel like a child of God. You can be amongst people who are like you, who worship like you, who feel like you, and remind you that you are in fact human, a child of God. So, the black church, and the black church in West Louisville, is an essential part of all that is foundational not only to moral life, to spiritual life, but also to cultural life, economic life, political, small p and large p partisan political life. That it is foundational in a way that most of us in this room, coming from a white church experience, have not experienced. It's all-encompassing, and therefore, folks, look to the black church for much more than simply spiritual transformation, personal conversion, family support, children's education. And look to the church and the black church experience to much more, which leads me to education. In 1865, at the end of the Civil War, there was something on the order of 4 million black people in America. That's counting the folks in the outside the Confederacy who were free. Actually, I'm apologize. 4 million folks. There's more 4 million under the old Confederacy. Of those 4 million, something less than 5% had anything that could be called literacy, much less education. 4 months after the Civil War in 1865, a handful of black leaders gathered in Louisville and said they're going to start a college. They really didn't know what college was because they'd never got to go to college, didn't have a chance to experience college, didn't know anybody who'd been to college, but they knew college was a place of education. They needed one. And they needed one they could call their own. It took a while because they didn't have any money, didn't have any foundation. But by 1879, they founded what has become Simmons College of Kentucky, named after William J. Simmons, who was himself born in slavery. Simmons was a local person, but of national stature. This was 1879. In the early 1880s, he was one of the founding leaders and the first president of the National Baptist Convention of America. Died at 40 years old in Africa due to complications related to malaria. Who knows what Simmons College might have become and what William J. Simmons might have been on American life had he lived into maturity. But as second president, he founded a school that in its heyday was a vital part of black space in our black community, not just in Louisville, but in its environs. Simmons had all the indicia of a university that we associate with universities now. Bachelor's programs, liberal arts, a medical school, a law school, all the things that go with being a university. You found at Simmons College. One of the first cases regarding, successful cases regarding race, specifically concerning race and property, was litigated by a Simmons lawyer in a case called Buchanan versus Worley. So this, all this to say is Simmons, in the time after Reconstruction, into a period of growth and relative prosperity, was a major force in our community. Then the Depression came. When you don't have much, and many, many people, of course, suffer. Parents and grandparents, folks in this room suffer. Fell hardest on the black community. Simmons lost its campus, basically retreated into itself, and didn't take long before the University of Louisville basically took on most of the functions that had been done by Simmons itself, and Simmons became only a Bible college. Folks in this room may know Simmons by its older name, Simmons Bible College. That's been traditional around here for some time. And from the 30s up and for decades, up really until 15 years ago, Simmons was small and oriented toward only religious studies. In 2013, Dr. Cosby, pastor of St. Stephen, becomes the 13th president of Simmons College. As Dr. Campbell knows, Dr. Cosby is a great student of history. Lives as much in history as he does in the present and with vision for the future. Knowing the great tradition of Simmons, knowing the importance of education, particularly in the historically black context, Dr. Cosby, not to put too much on one man, but puts a lot on his own shoulders in order to help recreate the Simmons College that was once known. So, at the time he took over, Simmons had lost its campus, all down to one little building at 18th and Dumont, which was in pretty bad shape. It's now being renovated. Simmons gets its campus back. Stewart Hall and Parish Hall at 7th and Kentucky belonged to Simmons again. Takes over an administration building at 4th and Kentucky, once owned by the Sons of the American Revolution. That's just property. But then regains its accreditation. Now, again, we've gone from just being a religious studies program to now accredited with national accreditation, with 5 bachelor's degrees, 2 associate's degrees, and goes from 40 religious studies students to a current student population north of 200. Not a big school compared to what many of us know in liberal arts or in universities, but that's all over the course, basically, of the last 5 years. This growth has been, in academic terms, anybody who's worked in academia, this has been meteoric. This kind of growth has been almost too fast. I've been doing this for 4 years. I've seen it happening just in the time I've been around. Linda Ellison knows. This kind of change is almost hard to keep up with. That also has a lot to do with folks who have believed in Simmons. Folks here at Highland Pres and the church itself have believed in Simmons and donated to Simmons. And we thank you for that. So, in 2015, Dr. Cosby has a problem with the religious establishment around here. This is a man of national stature who preaches in big pulpits all around the country, who's a published author, preaches to thousands of people on a weekend. But some people, I think, who resent that and also have an axe to grind, took issue with him over sexual orientation. Dr. Cosby had spoken out in favor of inclusion of everyone, And he got some attack by that from folks on the religious right, particularly a Baptist stripe like me. And he said, there must be some Baptists. There must be some Baptists that are compassionate, that care, that believe that God loves everybody, no matter who they are, who they love. And said, who are they? Then he sort of, comes to himself and says, Self, there's a fellow at Highland Baptist, Joe Phelps. He seems to be a Baptist like that. Maybe I'll find out more about how to connect. We gathered at Simmons on Monday. Preachers have a full day on Sunday. On Monday, preachers come together to reflect. We gathered at Simmons on Monday, just a handful of people, to share across that line between white and black, in black space, under black leadership. And it was a handful of folk. It was such a profound experience. They said, we're going to do this again? Yes, we'll do it next Monday. That was a profound experience. We're going to do this again? Yes, we're going to do it again on Monday. We have met every Monday, except for holidays and the occasional whatever. Every Monday now for 4 years. That's what it takes in order to accomplish the kind of connection across the lines in America. I hear stories from around the country of people who gather monthly or quarterly, or do an annual event, or an occasional pulpit exchange. We've come to experience that what it takes to really accomplish depends very much on frequent and intimate contact. Dr. Cosby has a lot to say, has a lot to teach, and so we have figuratively sat at his feet. Not only just learning from each other, but also learning from him. Because particularly white folks in the room like me have a lot to learn. A lot to learn about unconscious bias and prejudice and black history and white supremacy, white fragility, white privilege. We have had a lot to learn, and sometimes it can be kind of overwhelming. Joe Phelps at one point, early on in the process, sticks his hand up. I just need something to read. Can you tell me a book to read so I can kind of get into this? Cosby says, well, you should read Black Power by Stokely Carmichael. And Phelps, who is, is the child of the 70s, says, you want me to read Stokely Carmichael? Black Power? Associate that with, violence and, anger. Carmichael, later changed the name Kwame Ture, put out this book which is basically about self-determination. And when Joe Phelps kind of got past the title and past the stigma, realized that what was being said here was more than being said just in the title, that this kind of education was about black confidence, confidence in yourself, black self-determination. So what else we got? So we read more books. This is late 2016. And we're reading this book, and we're reading that book. We read a book in late 2016 called The Half Has Never Been Told, which is the story of slavery written by a fellow named Ed Baptist, who's not a Baptist, unfortunately. Ed Baptist writes a book called Half Has Never Been Told. And we said, this book is so important, everybody should read it. Like all of Louisville should read it. So we got with Courier Journal. They published some of our reflections on the book. We brought the author to town in February 2017 during Black History Month right over here at Highland Baptist Church, and 500 people showed up for a book club. We said, we're on to something. That was 2016. 2017, we brought in Carol Anderson to bring a book called White Rage, which is all about white resistance to black progress. We read it in 2016, thought, well, that'd be really great. When Hillary Clinton's president, we will say to ourselves, wow, what was all that white rage about? And it was 2017, we said, oh my gosh. So Carol Anderson comes in 2017. We meet at Crescent Hill Baptist Church. 800 people show up. In 2018, the city of Louisville under Josh Poe has been studying redlining. Because segregation didn't happen because people didn't like each other. White people didn't want to be next to black people. It happened because real estate agents and governments, Democrats, created lines, created separation between people. That's why people live apart. So we brought in Richard Rothstein, who wrote about the color of law, about redlining. The mayor came, talked and spoke about all the work that the city needs to do to change redlining. And Louisville, because of the work that we're doing, Louisville has a reputation now as being one of those cities that wants to do something about redlining. It has everything to do with the people that have been gathering for these events. 2019, just this last February, we brought Eric Armstrong Dunbar, who told the story called Never Caught. This is revisionist history, friends. George and Martha Washington were not just the first father and mother of our country, they were also slaveholders. And when one of theirs escaped, they used every trick in the book, fair and unfair, legal and political, to try to get her back, but she was never caught. And Dr. Dunbar came to tell us that story, to help us realize that the story of America is more nuanced and deeper, and sometimes more embarrassing than we have told ourselves it is. We're going to read another book in February 2020. We're working right now to find the right author and the right book. But go ahead and mark your calendars for the book read, and tell your friends. We not only get this word out in Louisville, but we live stream that event. So if you know folks in other cities that want to read along with us, they can participate both in the reading and in the viewing of the author forum. As I said, Dr. Cosby is a great student of history. In late 2016, we're at a meeting, and we brought together national leadership about this. By the way, again, Louisville, this is Louisville-centric. Louisville has become a place which national religious leadership is gathering around racial justice. PCUSA, Cooperative Baptist Fellowship, National Baptist Commission of America, white and black respectively, are coming together under national leadership in order to do work on racial justice. Dr. Cosby, in a meeting late 2016, goes, does 2019 mean anything to you all? This is late 2016. That will be the 400th anniversary of slavery in America. Yeah? Really? 1619, August 20th, 1619, to be specific. August 20th, 1619. The first person arrives enslaved in the North American colonies. African slaves had come to the south, to the Caribbean, to Brazil, a decade before. But the first person arrives enslaved in North America. She's from Angola, because Christian missionaries had been in Angola for 100 years. She's probably a Christian. Christians, at least in name, arrived to enslave her and brought her to this country by Christians, enslaved by Christians. From Angola, they named her Angela. So, August 20th of 2019, just a few weeks away, is the 400th anniversary of slavery in America. If you will, if you got time, if you can, please come to St. Stephen Church and join leadership from this area and from around the country for the anniversary of slavery in America. This is the culmination of 3 years worth of work. We call it the Angela Project. We've held conferences in 2017, 2018, 2019, now 2019, in order to focus on the sins of the past, to celebrate and mourn the present, and set a vision for the future. As part of this Angela Project, we're going to gather at St. Stephen Church, noon Tuesday, August 20th, and worship. This isn't just about politics, it's not just about culture. It's about God's work in the world. and leadership from these national organizations, PCUSA, J. Herbert Nelson's going to be there. Bishop Reed from the AME's, leadership from the Barclay Baptist Fellowship, NBC USA, all coming together in this act of worship, in devotion, to hopefully make a difference going into 2020 and onward. So I've talked to you, I'm making notes to myself, I've talked to you about the book club and the anniversary. One of the ways that we get the word out about problems in the area and concerns for our community, and especially racial justice, is the West Louisville Forum. I think folk here have some attended the West Louisville Forum. First Wednesday of every month. We begin again in August 7th, noon. There's always a Wednesday at the 16 Family Life Center. This is a pretty good sized event, anywhere from 100 to 200 people on a regular basis. We focus on a lot of different things. We brought in national speakers, we brought in authors on pertinent and timely topics. The one this month is about journalism, particularly bias in journalism as related to coverage of black folk and black institutions. Editors from the American Baptist, which is the local General Baptist Association newspaper, from the Louisville Defender will be present. Keith Runyon, who had been an editor of the Courier Journal, was slated to attend. Cannot attend now for personal reasons. So we will have a good event, though. I hope you can come to be part of our monthly West Louisville Forum. I've learned a lot personally. I think folks that have been at the table for the entire West Louisville have learned a lot in our 4 years together. And we've been able to do things because we're gathered regularly. We can turn around an op-ed in 48 hours. We can do a press conference in 36 hours. We're able to be timely and nimble because we are together. That depends a lot upon leadership as well that connects on a regular basis. We appreciate Dr. Campbell and her regular and faithful presence. We appreciate this church for the support and for your financial contributions to Simmons College and more. I'm going to pause for a moment and let's just talk in the time that I have left. If you have questions or comments about things I've said so far, I'd be glad to address those. Yeah.
Hi, thank you so much for coming and speaking with us today, especially since you have such a limited time to see us. But my question is, what is personally the most challenging aspect of approaching your own internalized racism?
I'm reading a book, just started this weekend, called Bias, written by a social psychologist who works a lot with police departments. And when you dig into this, you realize how deep bias goes. Bias is internalized through brain behavior and brain chemistry at our very earliest ages, so that you can say to yourself, I'm not racist. I'm not like those people, the ones with the Confederate flags, the ones saying go back where you came from. I'm not like those people. I'm not a bigot. But then when you dig into realizing your own unconscious bias, then you realize how deep it goes. This helped me a long time ago, and I've been sort of thinking about it ever since. Anybody ever read Barbara Ehrenreich? I'm talking about, okay, sure. Ehrenreich, white author, wrote a short piece for Time magazine, and I've thought about it over and over again ever since I read it. She said, here's how unconscious bias works. You're walking down the street, coming your way are two men, both wearing business suits. one white, one black. The brain doing what the brain does, depending upon what your experience is in encounters with, and your depth of experience and all kinds of experience. Your brain says of those two people dressed the same, very different things. Of the white man, it says, oh look, a professional. The brain says, oh look, a janitor wearing a suit. See how this works? The brain, which is categorizes, puts people into its own silos and says, this is this and that is that. And then the heart says something else an instant later. It's like, wow, where did that come from? Because it comes from the way that the brain works. Now, it's a relief to know that you're not a bigot, but it also helps you realize I am really very much in the process. If I see this and think that, or feel that, or even don't even necessarily recognize it until later on that I did that or thought that, then you know you got a lot of work to do. It's very challenging. It depends a lot too on your circumstance. You see this in the time that people have to make decisions. You have time to reflect. You got time to process in meetings and committee meetings and conferences over time. You can deal with bias, conscious and unconscious. You're a police officer. You're making a decision based upon safety in a matter of seconds. Bias drives things in ways that doesn't really. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, but I mean, would you say that it's ever possible to undo those biases that were ingrained into you as a child?
Probably not. Probably not. I think that what you can do is continue to, as the scripture says, be engaged in the renewing of your mind. You know, that that you can be better, you just can't be perfect. That's what I think. Somebody else.
Are there any volunteer opportunities for any of the Simmons College empowerments where we can
Sure.
contribute time or?
Absolutely. Absolutely. The scripture says that the fields are white with harvests. Use your expertise and your passion to engage, in whatever it is you like to do. Some of the folks, I can think of two things. Linda is involved in supporting writing. A number of folks who are members of Crestview Hill Baptist are they call themselves the encouragers. It's kind of like being a mentor, with students, particularly many of whom don't come from educated families or from a community that believes in education, need encouragement to make sure that they don't stumble. And so be an encourager.
Who do we contact about that? We don't just come in and say, I'm better than you because I'm white,
No. Depends on, like I said, depends on which area you want to do.
Marching band. I was looking on the website.
We have a great marching
I
band.
know.
We have a great marching. If you want to talk to marching band, call Kevin Davenport. Yeah. Yeah, we have a great marching band.
I wanted to ask about the new program for people who are maybe toying with the idea or serious about becoming teachers. How does that?
Oh, good. Teachers in transition. This is wonderful. Just announced. So, Marty Paulio, JCPS superintendent, has partnered with Simmons College in an effort to diversify the teaching faculty all across JCPS. 40% black students, 13% black teachers. Students learn best from people who look like them, for all the bias reasons we've already just talked about. Bias works in a lot of different ways. So, teacher in transition is about, if you've got any kind of bachelor's degree, or if you're working on your bachelor's degree at Simmons, you can engage in this project and over a 12-month period be in it's intensive classroom work and school classroom work too, in order to have a school classroom by August of 2020. So,
Does that mean you're certified or what?
it's the certification in order to be JCPS eligible. I don't know exactly what certification it is, but yes. Somebody else?
Term reparations, if that's correct, look in the national political debate. What does it mean to you, and what does it mean to Reverend Cosby as far as your vision in the West?
Reparations. I'm glad you asked it that way because reparations has become more of a political football than it is a serious discussion. Reparations is, we in church we call it repentance and repair. That first it begins with repentance, that a sense that we all own this. It matters. I believe that I am responsible for what happens next to the black community in America, even though I personally didn't enslave anyone, even though I personally didn't steal from anyone, because I stand on the shoulders of those before me, that I have a responsibility to those who are the children and grandchildren of slaves. So it's responsibility. And it's a repentance as in peoplehood for all that's happened in the 400 years that we've gone through. And with repentance becomes the obligation and the joy to repair. In Empower West, we've been talking about the story of Zacchaeus. When Zacchaeus repents of his wicked ways, he doesn't just say to Jesus, "Hey, I'm really sorry." He says, "If I've taken anything, I'm going to give it back. God will. If I've anybody defrauded me, 4 times what it took, and half goes to the poor." And Jesus says, "Today salvation has come to this house, not just me, but the house of Israel." So, repair is a Zacchaean sort responsibility to set right in a very structural sort of way. Now, what that means to me, this is the restoration of black institutions. The 5 pillars I spoke about earlier of prosperity, one of those is black institutions, specifically black colleges. Historically, black colleges are among the best promoters of black success. 40% of the black teachers in America went to historically black colleges. Half the black doctors in America went to historically black colleges. Half the lawyers. Historically black colleges are foundational to black institutional success. And so Simmons is one of those places where, here locally, that we own as a black institution that can be much more than it already is, and the sky's the limit. So when people saying to me, what do you think you ought to do for reparations? Historically black colleges, support Simmons.
But I'm just throwing out some concepts here. If you're advocating, and not just Simmons, but other colleges like Howard and Hampton,
Yeah, I hear you. Sure.
for training or educating black people, doesn't that promote segregation in a way? And starts, everything becomes a racial issue. And I guess my point about the reparations, the reason I was going there is,
Sure.
I think everybody wants to see poverty, violence, and crime. But that word, that phrase, to the liberal center, to the conservative center, to the right, is very politically divisive and polarizing.
Yeah.
And it starts to defeat, in my opinion, the purposes that you're trying to achieve. But when you tell me I'm trying to get my handle around, do we really want to create an education system that says, okay, we're going to have to have blacks here, whites here? It gets away from this concept. And I grew up in the 60s. I'm really old. So I've seen segregation.
Sure.
work. So, when Martin Luther King talked about unity and I had a great experience. I actually at one time thought in 50 years, we're going to be unified. We're going to still have racism. But it looks like we're both sides are driving that wedge. We're driving it further apart. We're not being unified. And that's the issue, or that's a problem I've got with where we're heading.
What you're doing now, engaging about why reparations and if reparations is exactly the discussion that America needs to have. That's really, really important. I feel like what's happened just in the last 6 months has not only been if reparations, but if there's no reparations, what would it look like? But what we do, that's a further step. About your point about segregation, this is an important one in power wrestle with. I have to go just for 1 minute. It is a very fair point. Here's what Dr. Cosby would say the same way if we were standing here, which is that we're not trying to create segregation. What we are trying to do is lift up celebration. That black culture and black foundation and creating black support structures celebrates black leadership, black personhood, black humanity, in a fashion that's where all the slings and arrows of culture tear that down. There are places that need to be built, not exclusively, but as one place within which black folk can find and thrive. So they would say, for example, of historically black colleges, there need to be more and stronger black colleges, not exclusively. Here in this town, we need Simmons. We also need U of L, Spalding, Bellarmine, blah, 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 as choices for everybody. But to have that choice, to have a historically black college as a place that students can find their personhood, thrive under black leadership is essential. Without it, we would be poor.
Chris, we need to let you go so that you can go lead worship elsewhere. Thank you so much. So I'm really grateful to Chris for coming. He's an invaluable part of the glue that helps our little organization work. We're close to the end of our time. If there's another question about Simmons or Empower West, I'd be happy to try to answer that. Yes?
How has our church helped with Simmons?
In a couple of different ways. A number of you have participated in book reads. I see a number of you here who've been to the book reads. Linda Raymond Ellison is part of the staff tutoring and working specifically in a writing lab, as I understand it, trying to help people come remotely up to speed in terms of their ability to do the level of work that they aspire to do. Barbara Young is the provost of Simmons. She's also an attorney, and she would be the person, I think, to talk to about specific volunteering work. I don't know whether you want to. We've also been, we've contributed financially we started off with some seed money to contribute to, frankly, bringing Chris on board when we were first starting with that, and we sponsored students. You know, I would just say that out of my own personal time, as I thought about the educational mission and that opportunity, and again, as you know, I think about the HBCUs, the historically black colleges, on the line of Catholic colleges or Presbyterian colleges. Why did we start those? So as to perpetuate a sense of culture, and not as end all and be all, but for those who wanted to engage in a very good way. So I'm a graduate of 3 institutions, several of which have absolutely no need for my financial contributions. At the rate at which I'm going to give, Harvard University has absolutely no need for me, right? So why not give at the rate I can give to Simmons? And that's what Fred and I have decided to do. I stopped with the number because I also still contribute to the places that I taught professionally, but that's another story. So, that's a way I've decided I can give back. It's a simple way. I'm not a huge donor, I'm not a mega donor, but I can do what I can do, and my gift makes a much greater difference there than it would at Southern Methodist University or in Harvard. Not that I don't love them, but.
Can I just comment on that, the separation, because I think we need to have historical Black colleges, and we need to have places like that until a more traditional education includes Black history, and not just in February. I teach 5th grade, and we really try hard to be, in the past 5 or 6 years, to really be honest when we teach history to 5th graders, and to say, yes, George Washington was the first president, and he owned slaves, and how can we reconcile that? Because, we talk about it as our superhero unit, because he was a hero, and he had flaws, because we're all people. And until Black history is not just February, and it's not just Martin Luther King, but it's really a place where Black children can find their niche and be a part of that, and we're not there yet. We're working on it, but we're not there yet.
Just to add to the discussion in the front row here, I teach around race and culture myself, and as a point of reassurance, one of the findings about students, for example, African American students who engage in cultural centers or go to HBCUs, is those very same people are the same ones that lead more integrated lives. So
I'm sorry, that you what?
that lead a more integrated life. So that interact more with the broader white community because of the taking the strength of that experience and then extending it out. So Kamala Harris is just one example.
Martin Luther King Jr. is another.
Yeah. So it's not a matter of segregation, it's a matter of going into one's cultural strength and using that strength to contribute to the broader society. And that research bears out repeated. Just to reassure about the concern about being segregated.
Linda, if I could add something, I have learned tremendously at Simmons. And one of the things students have taught me is that through much of their lives, the whole message has been, if you want to succeed, you need to act right. You need to give up who you are. You need to change your hair. You need to change the way you talk. You need to change the way you act. The things that are your music, the things that define you culturally are not acceptable. You want to succeed. And so at Simmons, we have education that focuses on the things that matter and affirm some of the things that are really irrelevant to education, but then that they've always been taught you need to do to succeed. And so what I do with writing is I say, we're going to do this, we're going to use standard English because you want to communicate your ideas, which are utterly important. And you want to do it powerfully, you want to do it effectively, and that means you're going to have to use standard English because that's what the world expects. Doesn't mean it's wrong. Then we talk about yoga. We also need models to talk to people different. You do know that.
On a final note, I am trying this summer to read Jill LaPorte's These Truths. It is a tome like that. It is your basic doorstop book. Jill LaPorte teaches American history at Harvard University. She's taught there for years. And this is kind of the culmination, it seems, I gather, of the way she's been teaching American history. And I must say, I am finding it absolutely fascinating. I mean, it's stuff that I've known, but the way in which she is outlining the story is very powerful. So for example, the census and the electoral college are both sculpted around trying to solve the problem of how to elect a president when in some states the majority of the population is enslaved. And if you count only the white citizens, these states get, in their opinion, cheated. And so a system is put together that actually ended up giving more weight congressionally and by population to a place like Virginia than it did to some of the northern states. Why? Because we counted enslaved persons as 3/5 of a human being. They were not citizens, but they were counted so as to become a compromise that enabled the very fragile union to be put together. I knew this. I've read the Constitution several times. Understanding the debates around how this was sculpted, how this very tenuous decision was put together it's a re-education. And it's one I think we need to read. We just need to understand.
Liz Cheney, James Roberts with James Madison gets into great depth on that specific issue.
Yes.
Discusses it, but also that was put in here to protect the minority from being steamrolled by the majority.
Yes.
That was just part of the overall debate and discussion.
Right, exactly. And it is exactly a part of that notion of how do you balance majority-minority. But it also had very much to do with the economy of slave agriculture, which the southern colonies wished to protect.
For those to whom it will make a difference, this book is on Audible, just saying.
Yeah, because it's really long. All right, thank you all very much. Once again, I want us to thank Kevin Burns, who basically did most of the